Everybody, I'm Lee Cade. Today we are talking with professional cyclist TJ Eisenhart about his work and his participation and fundraising efforts for the Pingree Center. Thank you for joining us today, TJ.
Thank you. It's such an honor and pleasure to be joining you and to be speaking about something I'm very passionate about. So
Definitely. Now, you donated a painting. It was one of your trademark paintings a while ago and raised some money for Pingree. What brought you to decide to help the Pingree Center out?
So it's actually a really funny story, because I don't have right now anybody relation with, autism. So it wasn't like, oh, my brother has autism, like a lot of people's connection.
Right.
It actually just happened where one of my big supporters, Doug Smith Subaru, they are heavily involved with Pingree. And I was heavily involved with Doug Smith Subaru. They really helped me out. And they're like, hey, we'd love for you to do a commercial up there at the center and really kind of show. And that commercial still shows, I think, almost every morning, Channel 2, or I always get messages from people saying they see it. The first time I walked in those doors and just saw that facility and saw the incredible artwork that all the children had done. And I remember they brought out some of the children from their classrooms and I got to meet a lot of them and hang out, and they rode their bike right kind of next with me and on this like little, and after that, it just, I don't know, there was just something. I just wanted to be involved after that. And like I said, I don't think you ever really need an exact reason why you have to ever give back or do good. I think if you just see something and people that have created something brilliant and amazing, like I think the people at Pingree have, especially with them barely opening this new adult center, so they're really they're passionate about it and passionate about these kids and their life, so not just, so I really resonated with that. I love that. And last year, I think, or 2 years ago, it was 2 years ago, I donated a painting of mine that was this astronaut, this explorer, I call him. And this explorer, kind of like my symbol, I wanted him to kind of just almost as if he had just met these children or gone to this place. And in this painting, he has his hand out and it's like very gentle. And then you have the Pingree butterfly kind of just resting there. Because I also really resonate with the butterfly. I got this butterfly tattoo. And because I believe, we're always changing, evolving, and can grow. And so I did that painting and it was awesome, because it raised a good bit of money that, I always see that if you have resources, try to use those resources to help give back, because you might not have $1,000 or $3,000 to just throw to a charity, because I don't have that, but I have the ability to paint. I have the ability to contact my, sponsors and all these other resources to create good. And then, like as you were talking about, then raise awareness and raise money for Pingree. And it's been a fun ride. It's been a fun connection and a fun journey where every year I'm trying to figure out more and more things we can do to help raise more money. So it's always just like each year, it's not like it ends. It's like, all right, I tell all my sponsors, I tell everyone like, all right, I'm heavily involved with charity work. I love this charity I'm working with, Pingree, right now. So how can we help out? And they're always super supportive, which I think is cool. Because like I said, I'm not a rich man. I just feel like if you can gather your own resources, you can do good still.
Yeah, definitely lend your voice to a greater good for that matter. Now, during our Do You Blue campaign this past fall, you donated some custom wheels and that did great.
Yeah, that was super exciting. So I had Pirelli tires, which everybody knows for being on the fastest cars in the world and now on the fastest bikes. So they're a big sponsor of mine. And then also at the time, Envy, which now they're my handlebar sponsor, but they were my wheel sponsor at the time. And they came together, which I love, because these three people, me, Pirelli, and Envy, came together for a cause. And with these rims, supposed to signify this bike race that was going on in Cedar City, and it's called the Belgian Waffle Ride. And this Belgian Waffle Ride goes through the Parowan Gap. And this bike race is extremely hard. It's 125 miles, 12,000 feet of climbing, just ridiculously hard, all on dirt. And so you're just out there all day suffering. And I want to basically show people on these wheels in the style of, petroglyphs paintings, because you go past the Parowan Gap and you see these beautiful petroglyphs. And I'm from Southern Utah. I live right next to the Anasazi Reservation, and there's petroglyphs everywhere. And so you just get really inspired off that simplicity of art to tell a story. And it's funny, some people might look at them and be like, oh man, did my 10-year-old draw these drawings? But it's like, they all have, if you read it, it's a story, and they're supposed to be simplified down to tell everyone that story rather than this really complex. But it's cool. So yeah, we donated those wheels. And then also last year we partnered up with Factor Bikes. Now I race for Santa Cruz, but Factor donated a bike and I painted that and I put all this like spread love, all these cool flowers, and that bike ended up raising as well, almost like $3,000. And so, like I said, we're just always trying to find ways to help our community, and I just think
Right.
you can't change the world. You can feel and resonate with others that it's going on in the world, but for the most part, you have to focus on your community. Like I think it's nice when people are like, oh, let's raise money for this country in Africa or this. It's like, yeah, let's do that. But have you looked at your own community first? Like
Right.
there's kids going hungry in your community. There's issues going on in your own community that if you just look deep enough, it's actually very simple to be a part of and to help. All it took for me was simple email or message to Pingree saying, hey, this is my plan. I want to donate this painting to you guys. Can you guys just help me, promote it basically on an auction or something? And they were just beyond stoked. And I think, again, it just shows the simplicity of it, of giving back.
Well, it's amazing because sometimes you can't change the world like you're saying, but you can change a little part of it.
You can teach that to your children, and then that eventually will expand. And then you'll have people who will visit your community and be like, wow, I really like this, or I like what these people are doing. And they'll bring that to their community. And it's, like I said, when we look at the world as this big issue, like we do so much with the constant news and negativity out there, it gets super overwhelming for us, where we can feel like it's too big for me to do anything. You just feel so overwhelmed. But when you can just focus on like, okay, I'm doing good. It's like behind me, I still have like frame and pictures that Pingree sent to me, and it has some of the kids, they drew like their name and wrote some like really nice. And it was just, that means, the world to me that, you're getting that. And I don't know, I just think you can find things to do good.
I know a lot of people know you from your work as a cyclist. I was really happy to see the size of your canvases, though. So let's talk about your art for just a little bit.
Yeah. So everyone has always known me for my cycling because that's always been out in the media, but nobody ever really knew about my art side. And until the last few years when I started really selling it and really promoting it, I've been doing art since I was a child. My mom had me always in these really, really high-end classes. At age 10, I was studying liquid lead and airbrush, and a piece like that would take like months to a year, and that really taught a 10-year-old patience, and really taught a 10-year-old, hey, this is how structure works. This is how, paintings take time and work. And so I learned that process. And now as an artist, I'm able to kind of reach down and build and create and now make a living from it. And yeah, as you saw, I have a lot of these big paintings in the background, and that's now majority of what I do is these big canvases. I don't do any small work, or just because when you're doing these big pieces, you can get so much more emotional with it and more personal with it, where it's like you're standing up, you're just part of it rather than just drawing. And I like that. And, so do all my clients, and it's been great where, I mean, my art's taken off where they're all around the world. I mean, I've shipped to Germany, London, everywhere, Spain, France. It's great with my cycling background to then have made these connections with people where then now they see me with my art. And it was actually interesting. I just did a podcast on my show, The Next Stage, and I called David Miller, who's this ex-professional cyclist, and he was my idol growing up. And it was awesome as we got on the phone call and started talking on this podcast. All we talked about was art, because he's a major art head and loves art. And so it was cool where he's now a fan of what I'm doing. I just think that's cool, where it's like, all right, I become more of myself, more of that original artist where I'm doing my own thing. And now those people that I looked up to in like my sport and my old profession are now liking that and wanting to work with me somehow. Whereas when I was just a professional cyclist, that never would have happened because I was just, that was just where now I'm out of that bubble. Like I said, you're having these people that you were fans of and idols, and now they're fans of you and buying your artwork. And you're just like, it's really humbling and amazing because, like I said, when you're having people buy your art, one piece I'm working on is for the guy who owns Zwift, which is the biggest online e-sports cycling, and it was just like, when he contacted me, it was just like, wow, this is awesome. Like it just helps solidify in my art. What I really love is when people are buying that art, not because of like I said, there's nothing with my cycling really anymore. It's more
Right.
towards my art. And so people are really seeing that and seeing the value in it, which is really, really awesome.
So I know you started out working with airbrush. What medium are you working with now?
Every medium.
Everything.
Yeah.
I
Now
know.
it's, I don't know. I look a lot up to Keith Haring, Basquiat, a lot of these guys where their style was evolving. They were growing like, yeah, once they got to the end of their career and they were doing all this simplistic, more abstract work. But what a lot of people don't know is how good they were with other,
Right.
other styles as well. And for me, like I said, it doesn't just stop on the canvas. It's, working with my bike sponsors to be like, hey, let's do this with this bike, or our clothing sponsor, and be like, hey, I want to design, my own clothing line or my own shoe line with this brand. Or so it definitely in my mind is, it's not it that was, it's not contained to just one thing. It always has to be growing. And that's kind of like the issue, is everything I look at, I want to somehow create it. That's just how my mind works, where it sees things and sees how I can then make it my own. And like I said, whether that makes me like a pure creator or a pure artist, like I'm not just the normal artist where it's like I'm just stuck to one thing. And because I could never just do that. It has to be, I think there has to be always growth in yourself, and always be able to challenge yourself with new styles, new techniques. Like I said, there's always a deep like story behind it. Cause like I said, it's everything that I'm going on in my life. If there's an argument with my wife, or if there's something going on, or you know what I mean? Like it affects you in your process. So you have to make sure everything in your process is good and you're balanced out, and like I said, can channel and open it up. Like there was one piece I was working on for this incredible lady, and sadly she has ovarian cancer, but her husband hired me to do this incredible painting, and it was of this like coyote. And I just, as I worked on this piece, you just couldn't help but put so much insane love into it. Because like I said, if you had had a stupid argument with your wife and then you go out in the studio and you're working on this piece, you then are running back in the house to apologize to your wife, and then, say how much you love her, because here this guy is hiring a painting for his wife that doesn't have a lot of time. And you're just like, priorities, man. Like
Right.
get it together, and but that helped me go so deep. And like I said, those little pieces like really just helped me, same thing when I work on things for Pingree. You just look over at my little frame that I have of the kids, and there's a lot, and you're like, all right, let's go to that place, go to that place of love, peace, happiness, playfulness. What would make those kids, when they look at the wheels, smile? You know what I mean? Like as an adult, you might look at those wheels and be like, oh yeah, cool. But one of those kids looking at it, like, it's going to blow their mind, and they're going to love it. And they're going to find those little characters on it, and find a character they, maybe relate to more, or like, and specifically go to this one. And it's like I said, adults sometimes push that off. So for me, sometimes the art is not always for, one person.
I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us today. I know I'm going to let you get back to your art because I want to see more of that. For people who are curious, do you
Mhm.
have a page or a website that you post your artwork at?
Honestly, just social media. That's usually I'll post a piece and it's, gone. So that's why I never really created a website or anything, because it was just, social media. With Instagram, just find me at TJ Eisenhart, and then just message me, if you're ever interested in a piece. I post a lot of my pieces on there. And then there's also, my art is up in this gallery up in Salt Lake. I need to remember the name, but I just got into this gallery up in Salt Lake. They loved my work. And so that was kind of fun.
TJ Eisenhart, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Have a good one.